The mirrors were attached, and when sunlight hit, it bounced down onto enemy ships. Now, legends say this heat caused them to ignite, destroying the enemy with only sunlight. But when modern scientists tested it, they discovered they would need dozens of mirrors for it to work. The ship would need to stay still for 10 minutes for the wood to heat up enough to catch fire. Flaming arrows would have been much easier, meaning the mirrors were probably better at blinding crews than actually torching. He woke up inside the morgue after accidentally being declared dead. You see, he had gotten into a car crash with his fiancée. Now, she survived the crash, but the man's injuries were so severe that paramedics pronounced him dead. He was put into a freezer drawer for 2 days, but he woke up and started screaming. Workers heard him and rushed to pull him out, and he was finally allowed to go home to his fiancée. But when she saw him, she was terrified, convinced he was a zombie, so she refused to take him back. The robber fired the gun directly towards the man's hip, but he had his phone in his pocket, protected inside a Hulk case. The bullet slammed into the phone, the screen shattered instantly, but the phone and case absorbed the shot, stopping it before going through the back of the phone. So even though the case didn't protect the phone, it kept the bullet from breaking the bone beneath. They would race through the streets where children played, injuring some and killing others. You see, before cars were common, the streets were safe public areas. But as cars got more popular, it was suddenly dangerous to walk on the roads. Soon, people started to protest, demanding that the engines be limited to just 25 miles per hour. But instead, the motor industry blamed pedestrians. They took the word J, which basically meant hillbilly, and invented the word jaywalker to insult pedestrians. A Santa was even paid to yell it at people crossing the street, spreading the new term. And in one parade, a clown pretended to jaywalk before getting hit by a car in slow motion, until it finally became illegal to cross the street wherever you wanted. They placed the bodies in the water, with their arms tucked in and knees pulled close. Then they placed long wooden stakes around each of them to pin them to the bottom of the bog. This was so the water didn't push them back to the surface, which prevented animals from eating them. Once the bodies settled, a thick layer of dead plants sealed them in like a lid, blocking out air and light and preventing the bodies from decaying. But 8,000 years later, a construction crew hit a human skull. Archaeologists arrived and uncovered 168 burials. They were so well preserved that their stomachs still held their last meals. Their skulls still held chunks of their brain, their bones were still wrapped in burial cloth, and their bodies kept the curled shape they were buried in 8,000 years ago. He climbed onto the table by the railing, and his friends pulled him back down. But when he did it again, people just filmed him as he jumped overboard. You see, he was at his graduation party when he was given the dare. But after someone threw him a lifesaver, he swam away, disappearing into the ocean. Now, the ship was in an area usually filled with aggressive sharks, and when the video of him jumping was posted online, people started to notice a dark, blurry shape near him. The crew searched for 2 days, but he was never found. He climbed onto the table by the railing, and his friends pulled him back down. But when he did it again, people just filmed him as he jumped overboard. You see, he was at his graduation party when he was given the dare. But after someone threw him a lifesaver, he swam away, disappearing into the ocean. Now, the ship was in an area usually filled with aggressive sharks, and when the video of him jumping was posted online, people started to notice a dark, blurry shape near him. The crew searched for 2 days, but he was never found. A polygon has straight lines, connected together by sides and corners, forming an enclosed space. But since all of the lines are straight, they can only touch at one point, or lay on top of each other. And on paper, the smallest one you can make is a triangle with 3 sides. If you remove one and try to make it with only 2 sides, both lines would have to sit on top of each other, which would leave no space between them, meaning it wouldn't be a polygon. But in 3D, if you draw those same 2 straight lines on a sphere, each line curves with the surface, just like airplane paths curve around the Earth. Now, the 2 lines can meet at one point, travel around the sphere, and meet again on the other side. And those 2 points would create a closed space between them, making a real 2-sided polygon. He let his son steer the plane, even though there were 75 people on board. But the boy pushed hard on the controls, which turned off the autopilot. And even though a warning light flashed, the pilot didn't see it. Suddenly, the boy pushed the controls again, sending the plane into a nosedive. The pilot took over and managed to pull the plane up, but it climbed too steep, which caused the engine to stall. And without power, the plane plummeted to the ground, killing every single person on board. He pulled the grate off the vent, and his baby brother crawled straight in. He dropped 8 feet down the hole before getting stuck at the bottom. Now, their mom was in the other room and had no idea what happened until the toddler came in yelling, "Baby in." He showed her the open vent, and she realized her baby was inside. Rescuers tried to reach him, but he was in too deep, so an officer crawled under the house, pushing the baby up the shaft and back into his mother's arms. And after that, she screwed the grate shut. Coco sat with her caretaker, slowly shaping her hands into signs, learning words. Then, one day, she signed something new. She wanted a cat. So they brought her a tiny gray kitten. The moment she saw him, she held him gently to her chest, cradling him like a baby. And using sign language, she named him All Ball. She brushed his fur, carried him around her room, and signed over and over, "Coco Love Ball." But one morning, the kitten slipped outside and it was hit by a car. When they broke the news to the gorilla, she mourned it with loud wails. And when they asked her about the cat later, she only signed one single word: cry. If you crack an egg on the rim of a pan, the shell can cave inward and splinter deep inside, and once they fall into the egg white, you would have to pick out every tiny piece of shell. But if you crack it on a flat surface, the pressure spreads out evenly. The membrane stays intact underneath the shell, holding the cracks in place, and your thumbs slip into the crack and open it without pushing the shell inside. But if you just drop the egg straight down from a few inches, the force spreads across the whole shell at once, making a perfect split with almost no fragments. Vinyl pellets are melted down into a puck before being placed between 2 metal stampers. These have tiny grooves matching the music, and when they press down, the vinyl is permanently printed on both sides. The edges are neatly trimmed, creating a perfectly round record. And when a needle moves along the grooves, it picks up the vibrations, turning them back into music through your speakers. He crashed his car, and an ambulance rushed him to the hospital. When doctors checked his phone for an emergency contact, they called 17 people, thinking they were his family. Minutes later, a woman arrived. Then another came in behind her, and another, and another. Soon, the waiting room was full. 17 women, all insisting they were his girlfriend, but they soon realized they had all been dating the same man. Some were giving him money, and one was already planning their wedding, all believing they were his only partner. Everything he had been hiding for years unraveled in a single afternoon, all because of one car crash. As they arrived at the Airbnb, he tried to connect to the Wi-Fi, but he noticed a network called IP camera. Now, the man was actually an IT professional, so he knew the network was suspicious. and when he managed to connect to it, what he saw shocked him. It was a video stream of his family in real time. They tracked it down to a fake smoke alarm and realized the host was recording their every move. They left immediately, staying in a hotel instead. But when they reported it, Airbnb did nothing. So they posted it on social media, and after it went viral, Airbnb finally apologized, refunding their cash and banning the creepy host. She waits outside the enemy ant nest, then kills the workers and rubs them all over her body. This transfers their scent onto her, and she's able to sneak into the nest. Once she's inside, she finds the queen and sprays her with a liquid that marks her as an intruder. When the workers smell her, they think she's the enemy. So they rip their queen to pieces, thinking they're protecting the nest. But the real intruder then becomes the new queen. She starts having babies, and when the original workers die off, they're replaced with her offspring, allowing her to completely take over the nest. If you were lifted up by your ponytail, how much weight could you hold before it would rip your scalp off of your head? Well, each strand of your hair can hold only a few ounces before snapping, and you have around 100,000 strands on your head, meaning together your hair could hold thousands of pounds before breaking. But as you add more weight, the pull travels straight to your scalp. Your skin would stretch tight, and the blood vessels underneath would start to tear. And at around a couple hundred pounds, your scalp would begin to tear away from your skull, leaving your hair mostly intact as your scalp rips away. If a crocodile eats a human, they'll actually cry real tears. Now, some people think they were just pretending to be sad, and this is where we get the term crocodile tears, which means you fake your sadness. But this actually happens because a crocodile's eyes dry out when it leaves the water, and this causes them to produce tears to keep them wet while eating their prey, meaning they're actually not sad at all. He would slice up the corpse and then deliver a baby, all without washing his hands. Now, the germs from the dead bodies would infect both the mother and child, killing them just days after birth. One doctor figured something was going from the corpses to the mothers, so he ordered everyone to wash their hands in between, which stopped nearly all of the deaths. But no one believed him. The constant rejection wore him down, and his mental health collapsed. His coworkers sent him to an asylum where he was beaten up by guards, but the germs from their hands got into his wounds, and he died from the very thing he tried to prevent. Decades later, his discovery was finally accepted, and today, hand washing saves millions of lives. Place the chicken egg in a towel warmer, wait a little over a week, then use a syringe to take tiny living cells out of the egg and place them into a clear dish. Next, feed them sports drinks, egg yolks, vitamins, and protein powder. And as long as the heat from the towel warmer stays steady, the cells slowly multiply. After a few weeks, they'll clump together, forming a soft, sausage-like piece of meat about the size of a pea. But if any kind of bacteria manages to get in, it can take over the dish and ruin the meat completely. 3 pigeons were crammed inside the bomb before it was launched, and as it flew toward the enemy ship, each of the birds was shown a screen. Now, they had previously been trained to peck at the target, so as they tapped the screens inside the bomb, sensors tracked their movement. If the ship stayed at the center of the screen, it meant the missile was on course, but if it drifted to one side, the pigeons would follow the enemy ship on the screen, setting off the sensors. This would trigger tiny levers that corrected the bomb's course until it finally hit the ship, killing the pigeons along with the enemy. But this idea was scrapped before the bombs were ever used. He was leaving a job interview when he saw the stroller rolling towards traffic. You see, a strong wind had yanked it away from the woman, who fell when she tried to grab it. But the man started sprinting and caught it just seconds before it hit traffic. Now, he had been homeless for years, but after the video went viral, the company called him to tell him he got the job. Soon, other companies began to reach out too, finally giving him the fresh start he deserved. As she ate the hot dog, she didn't notice the bullet inside going down her throat. Then she bit onto something hard, and when she pulled it out, she realized it was another bullet. But the factory claimed they always did a metal scan of their food before they were sold. And when the police tore open dozens of other hot dogs, they couldn't find anything. After she pooped it out, she was left with 2 bullets and no explanation. She crashed her truck right into a beehive, making a massive swarm of angry bees burst out and attack her. Now, a neighbor heard her screams and ran to alert her parents, who lived nearby. They rushed in to pull her away, but the bees turned on them too, stinging them hundreds of times until they collapsed. They were taken to the hospital, and the mother was left severely injured, while the woman and her father passed away, all because of a single beehive. When an astronaut poops in space, their waste could be taken and mixed with special microbes, and these would eat the solids, releasing gas as they go. The gas could then be used to feed bacteria, which would multiply quickly. And since the whole thing would be heated to almost 160 degrees, it would kill any germs left from the poop. Next, the bacteria could be collected and turned into a paste, which astronauts would eat. This would save room on the spacecraft by turning their own poop into food. He spun the wheel, and it landed on a centipede, so he picked one up and ate it. And he streamed this live to thousands of followers. Every time he spun the wheel, he would eat or drink whatever it landed on, including worms and geckos. But when he ate the live centipedes, they got stuck in his throat, and he collapsed while live streaming. The whole thing was streamed on social media, meaning his followers watched him die on screen. The baby dolphin got separated from its mother, and the waves pushed it onto the sand. People rushed toward it, crowding around it before lifting it. Then they passed it from person to person just so they could take pictures. But the longer it stayed out of the water, the more it dried up. And one tourist even covered its blowhole, meaning it couldn't breathe. When rescuers arrived just 15 minutes later, the crowd finally stepped back, but the dolphin had already died from being suffocated and shown off just because people wanted photos. If you tried to surf on a tsunami, you might think that you could ride it for miles, but tsunamis don't curl like surf waves. Instead, they shoot up like a wall of water, swirling with rocks and dead animals. By the time it hits land, it can also carry entire trees and buildings. So even if you were an Olympic surfer, you would still be dragged under the water. When you set it to the number 5, a gear gets moved into place on the internal cylinder. And when you turn the main handle, the steps on the cylinder rotate the gear, which shows the number on the top of the calculator. Now, if you want to add 3 and 5 together, you choose 3 on the barrel. And when you turn the handle, it adds 3 more steps, showing the answer on top. Now, if you want to multiply 538 by 200, you can set the first number on the barrel, then change the place value above it, with 1 being single numbers, 2 being tens, 3 being hundreds, and so on. So to multiply it 200 times, you just set the place value to 3, and then turn the handle twice to give you the answer. As you drank, the beer would spill out of the holes in the neck. Now, most people would cover the neck, thinking it's just a jug with holes in it. But extra spouts in the rim still spill beer in every direction, meaning you would still be covered in beer. Instead, look for the hidden hole at the back of the jug inside the handle. Cover it with your finger, then cover 2 of the spouts. This creates a closed tube running from the bottom of the jug up to the handle and into the rim. Now, when you suck on the 3rd spout, beer is pulled through this secret tube and out the open spout, avoiding the other holes altogether. He pulled the net out of the water only to find it empty, and he had already gone weeks without catching anything, meaning he could barely support himself. But suddenly, a massive school of fish swam under his boat, so he tossed his net overboard and started hauling them in. Finally, it felt like his luck had turned, but as the pile grew heavier, he didn't notice how unstable his boat was getting until it suddenly tipped. The man fell into the water and drowned, ending the best day of his life in tragedy. They fired the gun at the house, and the bullet smashed through the window, heading straight towards the woman inside. But as it hit her chest, the bullet struck the metal underwire in her bra. This absorbed all of the impact and slowed it down so much that it just bounced off without even breaking her skin. Now, she was shaken but alive, all thanks to her bra. If you were born on the moon and traveled back to Earth, you would immediately be pinned to the ground. You see, normal humans are constantly pulled downward toward Earth, which makes their bones thicker, while their muscles grow under that pressure. But if you were born on the moon, the gravity is much weaker, meaning your bones and muscles wouldn't be as strong. So to fix this, scientists designed a massive glass cone that would slowly rotate on the moon's surface. As it spins, your body would get pushed outwards against the floor, and that push would feel just like Earth's gravity. So instead of floating around, you would just walk, meaning your bones and muscles would develop normally, and when you finally visited Earth, your body could handle the gravity. A thin scope slides down the baby's throat and inflates a balloon in the windpipe, sealing it shut. You see, a defect in the diaphragm lets organs crowd the lungs, stopping them from growing. But the balloon traps fluid inside, stretching the lungs bigger. And before birth, doctors remove the balloon so the baby can breathe, giving the lungs a chance to grow strong enough to survive. But the surgery could break the mother's water, causing labor to start too early. And when removing the balloon, even one tiny slip could collapse the baby's airway, meaning even a small mistake could be deadly. He placed the PS4 on the grocery scale, and it printed a produce sticker that he put onto the console. At the self-checkout, there was no cashier, so he scanned the barcode himself, and it rang up the PS4 as produce, meaning he only paid $10. Then he sold the console so he could afford a train ticket back to his home. And when he came back the next day to try it again, security caught him. Now, he avoided jail, but the guilty verdict stayed on his record. He lowered the chunk of meat straight into a man's open stomach, and inside, the acid began softening and breaking the meat apart. You see, years earlier, a fur trader had survived a gunshot wound, but the bullet left a hole in his stomach that would never close. Now, back then, people thought the stomach crushed food up like a grinder, and the surgeon realized he could use this hole to figure out how the stomach actually worked. So he dropped meat and vegetables inside, then pulled them back out to see how far they broke down. Then he drained stomach acid with a siphon and tested it in glass vials. And his experiments proved that digestion was powered by stomach acid, not by grinding food. Push the needle through the banana along one of the ridges, making sure not to pierce through the other side of the skin. Then turn the needle side to side before pulling it out again. Keep going all the way down, pushing the needle in every half inch. Now, if you flip it, it looks like a normal banana, but when you peel it, the slices appear, showing the banana pre-sliced as if by magic. He turned himself into the police, but they agreed to let him build his own prison. And when he was done, his prison included a soccer field, a sauna, and a waterfall. Inside was a jacuzzi, along with a fully stocked bar and a gym. It even had its own private nightclub. Guests would be smuggled in via supply trucks, allowing the so-called prisoner to host massive parties. But just over a year into his sentence, he escaped through a false wall, according to rumors, and he stayed hidden for another 17 months. They would lock themselves inside a station in the middle of Antarctica, and as the years passed, they would learn how to live completely separated from the rest of humanity. When they started having kids, they would teach them survival skills and their mission in life. These kids would then board a rocket that would take them up to a ship with an entirely artificial world inside. It would be held in a giant spinning tube that would mimic gravity, and once they had children, they would pass on what their parents taught them, continuing the cycle for 400 years as the spaceship inched deeper into space until they finally reached Proxima b, an Earth-sized planet that might be able to support life. The beetle rolls its poop ball in a perfectly straight line in the dark, and you might think this is because it has night vision, but it's actually not even looking at where it's going. You see, once the ball is packed, the beetle climbs on top, spins around, and looks up. Now, its eyes are too weak to really see anything in the sky, but the glowing band of the Milky Way is so bright, the beetle can see it against the dark night sky. So it lines itself up with this glowing band and rolls straight ahead, stopping occasionally to make sure that it's still lined up. And when scientists blocked the beetles from seeing the stars, almost immediately they began wandering in circles. But under a clear night sky, they rolled straight ahead, using the galaxy as a map. As the fish swim, cameras watch their every movement. If they start acting weirdly, scientists take the water for testing. And if too many of them die, an alarm would ring immediately. You see, fish are extremely sensitive to pollution, so any strange movements can quickly signal that there's been a change in the water. Labs use this system daily to test water and chemicals, helping to produce clean drinking water. His fingers would be slipped between the metal rings on the frame, turning the gun into brass knuckles. Now, the cylinder held 6 rounds, each with a metal pin sticking out. When the hammer came back, it smacked the pin to fire a shot. But since there wasn't a barrel, the gun only worked at close range. So if he got too close to the enemy, he could just unfold the knife from the frame and use it for stabbing while punching with the brass knuckles. Then it all folds up neatly until he needs it again. She injected bleach into the IV of one of her patients. As it entered their body, it began burning the veins from the inside. This eventually caused their organs to shut down, killing them. Now, 4 other patients had unexpectedly died in the same way. And when the hospital began to investigate, a witness claimed that she saw the nurse injecting something into the bags. When tested, the IV bags showed traces of bleach. The nurse was arrested and sentenced to life in prison. They removed the lump, sliced it open, revealing hundreds of tiny teeth inside. You see, when the boy was 3, a tumor appeared in his jaw, and as he got older, it only got larger. Now, the tumor was made of the same cells that usually grow teeth. But unlike his gums, it didn't know when to stop. So it kept making more and more. And when the dentist dug into it, they found over 500 teeth crammed inside, with some as small as a grain of sand. So they removed every extra tooth, giving him a normal smile. If a knee is wedged under one rock and a foot is placed on another, the pressure and friction can actually create a strong hold, supporting the entire body weight. This means the hands can let go, allowing the body to hang upside down. This stretches sore muscles and relaxes the arms, while blood flows back into the fingers. Now, if the distance between the rocks is too short, the foot can be flexed to make up the extra space, allowing rest in different places along the wall as long as the leg stays engaged. There's this nut on top of helicopters, and if it comes loose, the helicopter would immediately crash. Now, it's called the Jesus nut, and it clamps the spinning blades onto a long metal pole, holding the entire rotor system together. It's cranked extra tight with hundreds of pounds of force, and a small stopper is locked into the gear and secured with a bolt, keeping the blades connected to the pole that lifts the helicopter off the ground. And every day, crews check it carefully because if the Jesus nut fails, well, you might just be meeting him. They strapped a GPS tracker onto the back of a stork in Poland. Then it took off and flew thousands of miles toward Africa. But the signal was suddenly lost. And later, the charity funding the study received a $2,700 phone bill. You see, the tracker had fallen off the bird and someone found it. They removed the SIM card, slipped it into a phone, and used it for 20 hours worth of calls. And they never saw the stork again. If you pour water into a paper cup, then put it in a fire, you might think it would burn, spilling water everywhere. But water can absorb a massive amount of heat, which keeps the paper at a low temperature, meaning the paper will only burn down to the water line, leaving the rest of it intact. Even once the water boils, it still doesn't get hot enough to burn the cup, meaning the cup will stay in one piece until the water boils away, finally allowing the paper to ignite. Her necklace got caught on the fingers of her neck massager, and the rotating arm pulled it tight. But instead of turning off, it kept going, cutting off the blood flow in her major artery. The woman quickly fell unconscious, but the massager didn't stop, eventually strangling her to death. And by the time her husband found her, it was too late. Now, the FDA told other customers to throw their massagers away, but since there was no official recall, some people might still have these in their homes.
কবিতা লিখতে হইব কয় লাইন লেখছস দে নালে কিন্তু আমি তোকে পিটাম উদে তাদের
লাগবে হইব না ভাই এটা স্যার আপনি যেটা করবেন এটা করব কোন খুন খারাপই করে লিখুন কবিতা লিখতে পারবো না
কোনো মাপ নাই
এটা পয়রে আপনার প্রেমে পুরো রূপ করে পড়ে যাবো
আর তোর
আপনি পারবেন ভাই আপনি পারবেন
এত কিছু ফালানোর সিস্টেম জানোস আর প্রেমে ফালানোর সিস্টেম জানোস না কথা তো একেবারে ফালায় দেওয়ার মতো না তাগো যদি তোরা গুলিও করস আগে সালামটা তুই আন
আপনার ছেলেকে আমার এত পছন্দ হয়েছে যে আমি তো বিয়েতে রাজি হয়ে গেছি
বছরও পড়বো না
আমি তোমাকে চ্যালেঞ্জ দিলাম তুমি যদি 7
মাস্তানি মুস্তানি অপরাধ এই 7 দিন খালি খাবি আর
এরকম পট্টি দিয়ে রাখছস কেন
আমি চাই এই মহৎ কাজটার সাথে আপনি থাকেন আমাদেরকে 100
দুনিয়ার খাসা বাড়া হ্যাঁ আরে বেটা বড় ভাইয়ের মতো একটা বড় ভাই মানে টুকু
কিন্তু ছাপাই না সব মাথার ভিতরে থাকে যখন পড়তে ইচ্ছা করে মাথা আমি জানো ওরে বাপ করে দেব আর আমি কি কমো জানো তবু তানিয়া তবে ভালো কেমনে বেটা কস না কেন বেটা
তোমার আমি আসো তুমি গাও দে আচর করে বুঝতেছ
গর্জন করলেই সবকিছু অর্জন হয় না বুঝছস
তানিয়া শুধু ভাত কেন
তুমি অনেক ভালো একটা মাইয়া, তোমার অনেক ভালো হইবে।
আমার মা হাসপাতালে ভর্তি, ডাক্তার কইছে 2 ব্যাগ রক্ত আর 1 লাখ টাকা যদি আজকে
আমার জন্য পাগল আর আপনি তানিয়ার জন্য পাগল।
আরে জুলি, এইটারে কয় ভালোবাসা। তানিয়া, তোমার হাতের রান্না।
তোমার বড় ভাইয়ের ভালো না থাকলে এখান থেকে চলে যেতে বলো।
আরে জুলি, তুমি আবার কি রাইখা কি
প্রেমে ফেলতে পারো, তাহলে আমি নিজে দাঁড়িয়ে থেকে তোমার আর তানিয়ার বিয়ে দেব।
সারাদিন ধরে ভিক্ষা করছে, আমাদের 1 লাখ টাকা আর 2 ব্যাগ রক্ত লাগবে। কি করবো বলো, আমি তো আর প্রফেশনাল রিক্সা চালক না, প্রেমিক রিক্সা চালক। আমার তাহলে ক কি লিখছস, কয় লাইন লিখছস ক।
সে কি তোরে খুব ডিস্টার্ব করতো? আরে না, আরে শোন না একবার কি। ভাই আমাকে আপনার সাথে লেগে যান।
কাম তোরা, বুঝছি তো আমি, আজকে আমার বিজয়ের দিন। এখানে 100 কবিতা আছে, সার্ভিসটা তো একটু আলাদা থাকবে, তাই না?
দেখেন আমি কলেজে যাব, আমার দেরি হয়ে যাচ্ছে, এসব নাটক দেখা
চাইছে আর কি। ওই যে তানিয়া তো পড়াশোনা করে, সন্ধ্যার সময় যদি একটু খায় মাথাটা ঠান্ডা। এই এগুলা কি? এই কার্ডের ভিতরে আমার মেয়ের নাম লেখা কেন? এই বাইরে মনে কর পিক করতে, বুঝছো? ওই যে পড়ছে আছে। বলছে বন্ধু, তুই যদি রক্ত দেস
ভালো লাগে না রে দোস্ত।
না দুলা ভাই, আমি তো কোচিং এ যাই নাই, আমার তো বাসায় গেস্ট আসছে আর আমার আম্মু তো একা, এজন্য আমি যাই না।
আমার পড়াশোনা সবকিছু বন্ধ করে দিবে, তখন আমি কি করব?
আরে ছাইরা দে। ভালোবাসা যে এত প্যারা, এত কষ্ট, এত জ্বালা যন্ত্রণা, জানলে ভালোই বাসতাম। জিসান আর তুলির ভালোবাসার ইতিহাস তাই রক্ত লাগবে দোস্ত।
আসসালামু আলাইকুম দুলা ভাই।
আরে শালা, ওয়ালাইকুম আসসালাম। কি খবর, কেমন আছো? বান্ধবীও তো যায় না, এতবার ফোন দিলাম ফোনও ধরতেছে না। তুমি একটা ফোন দাও তো, ফোন বের করো।
কি বলেন দুলা ভাই, ও যায় নাই? কথা হইছে, ভাইয়া বলছে যে ভাইয়া আমাদের কোচিং এর সামনে আর আসবে না, আর তোকে ডিস্টার্বও করবে না।
জানো না?
কারণ না,
মানে 1 থেকে 3 গুনমু না বাবা। প্রেম হইলেই হবে, প্রেম হইলে এমনি ডিফারেন্স হবে বাবা। আমার খালি ওরে দরকার।
রক্ত কেন?
ইতিহাস লিখবো, ভালোবাসার ইতিহাস।
ভালো আছি, আপনি ভালো আছেন?
আমি তো ভালো আছি। তো তোমার বোন কোথায়?
আচ্ছা একটা মিনিট, আমি কল দিচ্ছি।
এক রাতে ভালো হয়ে গেল, এটাও আমার বিশ্বাস করতে হবে? দোস্ত আমার না ভয় লাগছে।